Hi everyone, and welcome to the Aden and Anais live Q&A with top pediatric sleep therapist Kimberly Walker. I'm Jo Woods and I'm the head of marketing at Aden and Anais, and I'm actually 34 weeks pregnant with my first child. So I'm really excited to have Kimberly here to share all of her insights and advice about getting our little ones to sleep better at night.
And I'm Julie, I'm Aden and Anais' copywriter, and I'm pregnant with my third little one. So Kimberly, we are so excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Kimberly has over 15 years of experience in this area, and she's helped hundreds of little ones and their parents get a better night's sleep. So I wanted to start, Kimberly, by asking you, what exactly does sleep teaching or sleep training mean, and when should you consider starting this with your baby?
So sleep training and sleep teaching are really the same thing. People interchange those words. What it really means is that you're going to teach your child how to put themselves to sleep without your help. That means without nursing or the bottle, either one, or rocking, or any of the things that parents do to help their babies sleep. As far as when you start, you're going to get 100 answers to that question. The best time for you to start is when you're ready and you feel like your baby is ready. I personally think that as long as they're 4 months old and at least 12 pounds, you can do it. There definitely have been instances where, people call me with 3-month-olds who are literally waking up every 45 minutes to an hour all night long. And their parents are going insane, and everybody has sort of figured out that this entire family is sleep deprived and they need help now. And then I work with those people. But in general, I personally feel like not before 4 months.
So I already have 2 kids, and I never worked with a sleep therapist, either on the phone or at my house. So what would I expect from a consultation with you? What happens?
When people hire someone, I think what you get from them is encouragement and advice, and you can call and text them or email and say, hey, what about this? You can email me for questions. I give you a plan. I tell you exactly what to do and when to do it, and minute by minute through the day. One of the things that also happens with sleep is a lot of times partners begin to disagree and argue over the subject. And when you hire someone, they can sort of come in and mediate that kind of situation and help. I have a lot of experience, and I've literally done this with hundreds and hundreds of babies, and so I have sort of a sense of what's normal and what's not normal.
So I'm about to be a first-time mum, and I have people giving me lots of advice and telling me what's best. And I've read a lot of things about sleep and sleep training, but I'm aware there's a lot of different approaches. How do I know which one is best?
I feel like this question is sort of asking, what's the best chocolate chip cookie recipe? It's sort of impossible to say this one is the best. So I have my opinions based on my experience and what I feel like works and what I feel like you should and shouldn't do, but it doesn't mean that my way is the right way. If you work with me, of course, you're committing to doing it my way, but that doesn't mean if you don't do it my way, it's not going to work. So the only thing that's going to work is what you can follow through with and what you can be committed to. Otherwise, no plan is going to work. What's best is what you feel like will work for your family.
Obviously, swaddling is like a big topic for us at Aden and Anais. So a couple of questions. Can I teach my baby to sleep if they're still swaddled? And what if my baby doesn't really like to be swaddled or is struggling with swaddling? Am I doing something wrong? Is there another way to get them to sleep?
So I'm a huge swaddle person. I really believe in swaddling. I believe it's best for the baby. I believe that they sleep better. But of course I have to say that, once your baby begins to roll over, you have to take the swaddle off. A lot of people worry that, but if we teach them to sleep with the swaddle, when we take it off, aren't they just going to be a disaster and we have to teach them all over again? It really usually doesn't happen. You may have 1 or 2 nights of transition while they get used to not sleeping with the swaddle, but usually you're going to have that transition anyway, and so that transition is really coming because they're learning to roll around in the crib, not necessarily because you took the swaddle off.
So the next question is from @musicmba from Instagram. The question is, my 16-month-old seems to hate her crib. She cries whenever we try to put her in it. If we lay her down in her crib asleep, she wakes right up and cries. What are some strategies for helping her sleep in the crib, or what are some good crib alternatives?
Okay, so a lot of people will say to me, my child hates their crib, or every time we walk into my kid's room, they cry, they hate their room. It doesn't usually mean they hate their room or they hate their crib. What it means is they don't want to go to bed and they don't want to separate from you. And that's okay. It's okay for them to be unhappy about going to bed. They're going to be unhappy about 100 other things you make them do in their life because they can't have, more ice cream for dinner, or they can't have cookies for breakfast, or because you make them leave the park because it's time to go home. They're going to be unhappy. Now, if every time you put her in her crib asleep, she wakes up crying, that's because she's falling asleep in a different environment than she's waking up in. So when you rock your baby to sleep and then you put them down, they don't understand 2 hours just passed. And they wake up and they're in the crib, and the last thing they knew, they were just snuggled in your arms. So it's like you falling asleep in your bed every night and waking up on the kitchen table. And then somebody puts you back in your cozy bed, and then you wake up on the kitchen table. So the way that you help her not wake up so unhappy is if you put her in her bed and she puts herself to sleep there, then she understands that she fell asleep in the same environment that she woke up in.
So I have a question that was asked on Instagram from @ChloeJoyM. Her almost 4-month-old doesn't nap straight for over 40 minutes, and he's not sleeping more than 4 hours a time at night. Is this normal? What can she do?
So babies of that age have around 30 to 45-minute sleep cycles. It is very, very, very common that they wake up within 30 to 45 minutes when they're taking naps. They probably aren't going to consistently connect their sleep cycles for a couple more months. But what a lot of people do, if you're not ready to teach them to sleep by themselves, then around the 35 or 40-minute mark, you can be right there, ready for the wake up, and then you can rock them back to sleep to try to finish the nap. You can pat them back to sleep. You can do whatever you need to do to try to get them back to sleep, because usually if they wake up in 30 to 45 minutes, they're not really finished sleeping, but they don't know how to get back to sleep. As far as sleeping 4 hours at night, is that normal? It's normal if you have a baby that doesn't know how to put themselves to sleep. 4 hours isn't terrible, but if you taught them how to sleep, how to put themselves to sleep, then yes, they could learn to sleep longer. They're old enough to be able to sleep more than 4 hours.
Perfect. I think we have only time for one more question. So this will be the last one for now, but like I said, we'll do our best to review all the questions that we've had in and make sure we address those. So this was the question from Janet. She has a daughter who is 1, and the daughter sleeps in her bed. And so she has a sleep schedule, but she wants some advice on how she can get her daughter transitioned, I guess, from the schedule in her parents' bed to her own bed.
If she has the skills to put herself to sleep, then the first thing I usually suggest for that transition is that you take an air mattress and you begin to sleep with her in her room on the floor, so she at least gets used to that environment. And I don't mean for months.
Yeah.
I mean,
How long do you think?
4 or 5 nights at the most, just so she understands this is the room where I sleep. Then after that, you can begin to put her in her crib. And some people will stay on the air mattress while the child is in the crib for another 2 nights or so, and then leave the room. And some people will just, after those first few nights of the air mattress in their room, and then they just leave and the child learns to sleep in their crib.
Should you try without being there, or should you or is it unlikely that that's going to work? Is there a way to do it without being
Is that avoidable?
If you want to go cold turkey, you totally can. There are plenty of people who just say, okay, I'm done with this. I'm exhausted and I can't sleep, and it's time for you to be in your bed. If you want to do that, can you? Absolutely. I wouldn't shut the door and come back 12 hours later. You know, I would check on them, I would reassure them, make sure they don't feel abandoned. But you also, for the first couple of nights, you could stay in there with them until they fall asleep. Not always, because they'll get used to that and then they won't be able to fall asleep without you in the room. That'll happen also. But for the first couple nights, just so she's not totally by herself, because that's what she's used to, you don't have to sleep in there on an air mattress.
Right. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining us today. It was great having you here answering all of our questions and our audience's questions about helping getting a better night's sleep for their little ones. Thank you to our audience. We look forward to hearing from you about other areas that you'd like to have more expert advice on, and we look forward to seeing you soon.